Hello, I'm Doug Musio. This is City Talk. New York Magazine has named her a millennial New Yorker. Crain's New York Business has selected her as a top technology leader. She's been a media and marketing pioneer in broadcast television, cable, satellite, and interactive media. She's the author of the just published book, Salahs Gift, My Mother's Holocaust Story. And in July 2006, she was appointed Dean of the CUNY Honors College. She's Ann Kirschner, and I'm delighted to have her as my guest. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, my first question is, how did a Princeton English professor trained to lecture in Victorian studies come to be a new media pioneer and executive who talked revenue streams with venture capitalists? Explain this to me.
Well, you know what they say on TV, don't try that at home.
Right.
I can't say that, that there was always a lot of career planning. I just sort of followed my interests. And where my interests took me, always had something about technology in them and something about content. How do you communicate great ideas to people? And so I've sort of followed my way through a professional path. It's taken me a lot of different places and finally brought me here to CUNY.
One of those places, as we talked about before we got on air, was the NFL. Talk to me about that.
Well, after I left academics, I had worked in cable and satellite television, and one of my friends became the president of the National Football League and called me one day and asked me to come in and talk about a satellite venture that they were starting, and it's what eventually became NFL Sunday Ticket. When I went to my first NFL game, yes, I went to the NFL without ever having gone to a football game.
Nice.
Truthfully, I had never even watched one on TV. Now, I am a fan. I love football.
And you're a season ticket holder.
And I'm a
to the
season
Giants?
ticket holder of the Giants, yes.
So you never
Go
saw...
Blue.
Nice, go Blue, nice. And you watched the game there?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. No, Eli Manning is a pleasure to watch. So I went to the NFL, and my very first game, I went to the place where the press sits, the press box, and I saw a bunch of guys on a computer, and I asked what they were doing, and I was told that they record the play-by-play. And I said, well, what happens to the recording on the computer when you're done? And they said, well, we upload it to the office, and no one was paying any attention to it. So after we started the satellite venture, I went online for the first time in September 1994 and went back to the league and said, you know, I think this is going to be big. And they said, great, well, you know, go do whatever you need to do. And so we took the URL NFL.com and started planning. And when I thought about those guys in the press box, I said, well, what if we took the output of that and put it on the internet in real time? And that was the first time there was live play-by-play.
And you don't know how many people, or you do know how many people watch. I mean, when I watch it at home, I'm a season ticket holder too, at halftime, I'm on NFL.com because I want to know what's going on everywhere else, and there's no other place that you can find it. And it's immediate. It's real time, real stuff. So
yes, it is, and it's the greatest thing ever. And we were the first sports league to do it, and with all deference to other sports websites out there, I still think NFL.com is a fantastic, fantastic service.
And it's been copied. I mean, Major League Baseball has, in a sense, borrowed both the technology and sort of the content and the format from NFL.
Well, let me tip my hat to Major League Baseball because I actually think that they have incorporated video and audio in a remarkable way. They have so many more games than the NFL, and so the subscription that you get on the internet to the MLB games, I can't remember what it is, I should be giving them a plug, but I think it's quite a wonderful service.
Okay.
So,
and then you go from the NFL, if not directly, to Fathom at Columbia University, which is really another first, an intellectual or knowledge consortium of museums and libraries and academic institutions using technology.
Well, you see, to me it made sense. To me it made sense. Content and technology, I've said, is always what interested me. The intellectual property of the NFL was what I was working with on NFL.com, and of course there was nothing particularly intellectual about it. Thinking back to my first love, which was higher education and finishing a Ph.D. in English literature, even while I was at the NFL, I began becoming interested in what it meant to be a university in the 21st century. And so when Columbia University decided in 1999 that they should start thinking about that very question and what they needed to do, both from a faculty point of view as well as curriculum, I was tremendously excited to go there and lead that thinking process with them. And in fact, your vision really has become a reality in a very short period of time. You've got the University of Phoenix, for example, and you've got Baruch, CUNY, other institutions with increasing percentages of their output online. You know, it's interesting. In 1999, when we would talk to leaders of higher education about the use of technology, there was always a little bit of pain, a little bit of a grimace. You know, a classroom face-to-face it's always the best. How can you possibly, use technology? You'll destroy higher education. Fast forward now to 2006, we really don't have too many of those conversations anymore. Mm-hmm. There's a recognition that, yes, a face-to-face classroom experience is always going to be the best, just as it's wonderful for me to be talking to you here as opposed to sitting at home and watching on TV. Nevertheless, in order to make higher education available to more and more people and to cut down on the barriers of distance, and we could talk about the barriers of distance even in CUNY, to go from Staten Island to Manhattan, that's a distance. Or the Bronx to Kingsborough community. Tremendous issue. Los Angeles back and forth. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So over the course of those years, there's been a growing acknowledgement that there's nothing shameful, shocking, or inappropriate about bringing technology into the classroom. It, in fact, can be a wonderful handmaiden to knowledge. Okay, and you've been a consultant to higher ed in the interim period and over a long period of time. Then you make the transition from sort of the consultant advisor, and now you're the dreaded administrator, and you've got that responsibility. How is it different? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities that you say? Well, you know what they say about consultants. They take your watch and then tell you the time. As a consultant, my role was always to listen, to learn, to make recommendations, to work on plans. But ultimately, the responsibility was not mine. The big difference here is this is mine. I am responsible for the outcomes, and so it's the difference between talking about something and actually walking the walk. But I was hungry for that, because to me that always was the part of consulting that I didn't like, that I didn't have responsibility. So accountability can be a wonderful thing. I'm not going to ask you about your assessment of CUNY as a bureaucracy, so we'll move on from that. CUNY has been and was the Harvard for generations of students who either didn't have the means nor the proper pedigree to get into the Ivies. In a sense, the Honors College is both a tribute and a testament, and the latest example of CUNY's ability to be, I hate to use the word, an elite educational institution in terms of its students and what they're learning. Public education should have a place for students at all ends of the spectrum, for the students who need help, for the students who are average students, and for the smartest students. That's how I grew up in public education, K through 16, through college. And there was a time when City was the Harvard for immigrant children. Well, the CUNY Honors College is a remarkable student body. In some ways, you could say a throwback to that era. because they are not only academically well prepared and academically gifted.
1351 average on the SATs.
Very, very high grade point averages. Leaders in their classrooms, leaders in their high schools, valedictorians, salutatorians. But most importantly, they are a diverse and wonderfully, wonderfully interesting group of New York kids. Many of them first-generation college attendees, and they speak many, many languages, bilingual, trilingual, quadrilingual. Last night we had an event for the Honors College, and I had to read the names of the students who had won an award for one of the Honors College seminars, which is about immigration in New York. And for the first time, I had sympathy with the Academy Award people who have to read the names. Only, you know, they should have more time to practice. Reading these names was like reading the United Nations roster. They come from so many different countries. And it is the American dream that education is the front door for opportunity, and they bring to the Honors College not only diverse intellectual interests, but they're all activists in different ways. These are kids who will change. Excuse me. These are students, young men and women, who will change the world.
Well, as I told you, I'm teaching freshmen for the first time in 20 years, and I've got, out of my class of 18, 9 Honors College students, and what you just said is absolutely the case. And as I told you, they are the best undergraduates I've ever seen, and they rank with some of the graduate students I've taught here in NYU and elsewhere. They are from all over the world. The first day when they introduced themselves, I asked them, well, where are you from? Well, they're from everywhere. Yes. They are truly the universe, and the quality of the work and the enthusiasm with which they come is just astounding. Now, you give them lots of resources because they sit in my classroom with their Apple laptops. It's a real honor to be in the Honors College. Describe who these kids are in terms of what they get. What do you get as an Honors College student?
Well, they get a fantastic undergraduate education. I'd like to say that first and foremost. Yes, it is free. Tuition is free at the Honors College. I aspire to being not the dean of the free Honors College, but the dean of an undergraduate college that the best students in New York choose because of the program.
And they are.
They are absolutely
they're
fantastic.
Coming.
So they get free tuition. They do get beautiful gleaming white Apple laptops. They also get an incredible support team of Honors College directors at each of the 7 campuses, advisors who help them with their academic program and with anything else they need help with. They have access to a group of 17 technology fellows who are experts in the way in which technology can help students and faculty in the classroom. They get a study grants, which they can use either for study abroad or for specialized learning. So the advisors, the team of the advisors, the directors, and the tech fellows join with the faculty in creating an undergraduate program that I thought from the outside was the most interesting story in higher education today. And now that I'm on the inside, the promise is real. It really is a spectacular program.
And you talk about the Honors College as part of a 21st century university. What are the hallmarks? What identifies the 21st century university, and what makes it different from the university I went to, the 20th century university?
Well, I hope there's a lot of continuity, but some things I think are different. One thing is this acknowledgement that curriculum and co-curricular activities are both terribly important. It's what we learn inside of the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. And I hope one of the areas that you're going to see the Honors College really become outstanding in is the use of internships and mentorships to help grow students' interests in their specific areas. An interdisciplinary way of thinking about problems, not being siloed in our academic disciplines, but thinking about how any given question can be viewed from the humanities side and from the sciences side. And so we think a lot about interdisciplinarity. Collaborative learning. You know, once you graduate, whatever you're going to do, there's not a field that you're going to pursue where the ability to work in teams and to tap expertise doesn't become extremely important. And so there's an emphasis on collaborative learning. Technology in the classroom, I think, is tremendously important. Again, it's something that's going to be part of your work no matter what you do. But it's also, it's how our students live.
Right.
You know, it's iPods and instant messaging and websites and Wikipedia, and it's acknowledging that that for us to really integrate learning, for them really to become the kind of lifelong learners that we want them to be, it's important not only what we teach them, but that we teach them how to learn for the rest of their lives. So, and one of the things that I'm excited about, again, given the fact that we're on 7 disparate campuses, is how we can use technology to integrate the students, the faculty, the tech fellows, the advisors into a learning community that really represents best practices in education.
You've described the Honors College as both a trigger and a trend, and that the Honors College, in a sense, is a learning lab, and that this learning is part of CUNY's, in a sense, return to intellectual leadership and commitment to academic excellence. Is this seen within the university as well as outside? Because it seems to me that the outsiders, the news media, people who deal with our students, understand this CUNY Renaissance better than folks on the inside. There's almost this inferiority complex on the inside that can we be that good? Do you find that phenomenon, or am I imagining it?
I do find that phenomenon, and I think that we can do a much, much better job of articulating the new CUNY, both to our own CUNY community, as well as continuing to get the message outside. The growth of the Honors College has been just a tremendous thing in its first 5 years.
The numbers alone, in terms of the
fabulous.
applications and where they're going afterwards, and I want to talk to you. Well, I guess we've had 2 graduating classes at the Honors College. Where do our undergraduates end up?
Our undergraduates end up in the finest graduate schools in the land. And I would name some names, but I hate to leave anybody out by omission. But they include all of the Ivy League schools. They go into medicine, they go into law, as well as graduate programs in everything from chemistry to psychology to social work. They go, some of them go immediately to work. They go to Wall Street, they go to accounting firms. They start their own businesses. I've spoken to a couple of students who have turned into either entrepreneurs.
My freshmen, my undergraduates, several of them own their own businesses, mainly in technology, but they own their own businesses. It was really astounding.
Yes. No, they are. The first 2 graduating classes are spectacular case studies in how to take a great undergraduate education and go into business, go continue their education, sometimes with extremely prestigious scholarships and fellowships. We've done a terrific job in that area. In fact, last week I read our applications for the Goldsmith Scholars Program, which is the specific program within the Honors College that prepares them for Trumans and Marshalls and Rhodes Scholars and the like. And so these are the best of the best. And the stories of their interests
Your face is lighting up just even talking about it.
Well, they're just wonderful. And what drew me to the Honors College was the thought of these students and being able to have a direct effect on them and take an already wonderful program and make it even better.
Do you teach in the program? Because you ought to.
I have, thank you. I have given 1 guest lecture, and I very much would like to maybe team teach in the future. And I've thought about a couple of areas, and one of them to me is this idea of the 21st century university and what it means to have a liberal arts education. What can you do with a Ph.D. in English? Well, I'm living proof.
Yes.
You can do
a lot.
You can do a lot. You can go to the NFL. So, I think I really would love to get back to teaching.
Now, Prior to this September, the Honors College physically, and still is, located in 7 of the senior college campuses. But in September, you folks got a $30 million gift from a CCNY/Baruch graduate, William McCauley, to purchase a home. Talk about the home and this $30 million gift, which is the largest gift ever received by CUNY.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing. We are now the William E. McCauley CUNY Honors College, and Mr. McCauley, through his generosity, has enabled us to purchase an absolutely wonderful building.
It is a great building.
35 West 67th Street.
It's a great building.
I try and stand in front of it at least once a week, even though we're not going to be moving in probably until next September.
But you can imagine.
I can imagine. It's a beautiful building on a beautiful block in a corner of New York that is residential, corporate, cultural heaven.
Foundations, the Council on Farm, you've got it, and you've got the park.
It's truly spectacular,
Yeah.
yes, and I'm a runner, so I think that'll be fun. The ability to have our students learn, have their club activities, everything from yearbook to student council, as well as the administrative staff of the Honors College, all in one place, is going to be a terrific, terrific thing. We're going to have smart classrooms in there. Some of the seminars will initiate from the Honors College building. The majority of them will still take place on the 7 individual campuses. And we're right now going through a very exciting strategic planning process to think about how we use that building both for students and faculty and the administrative staff.
Sort of a last question, and then I will come back to it because I want to move to the book, Salahs Gift. What do you see the direction of the college? And I know it's probably a ridiculous question. What is your legacy? What will be your legacy? What do you want this to be when you leave?
I want it to be a hallmark of public higher education throughout the world. I want it to be a place that stands for academic excellence with a full understanding of what it means to be an educated citizen in the 21st century. Along the way, I want to have taken the Honors College to a position of leadership in collaborative learning, interdisciplinary ways of problem solving, building student leadership amongst our student body, and encouraging them to find a way throughout the world, because we very much encourage them to study outside of New York during their time, to bring back to us a vision of how education is a real global enterprise these days.
And I have no doubt that you'll succeed.
Thank
Let's
you.
turn to this really remarkable book and what was a remarkable exhibition at the New York Public Library. Salahs Gift, My Mother's Holocaust Story. Tell us, how did this come about? What is Salahs Gift and what's the story?
Salahs Gift began in 1991, actually July 4th weekend, 1991. My mother, who was then in her late 60s, had been diagnosed with a cardiac problem, and she needed to have a triple bypass. The weekend before the surgery, she came out to visit me in Fire Island, actually, and she waited until everybody else had left, and then came out and brought to me a box, and I figured she was bringing me her jewelry for safekeeping. And I opened the box and said, "What's this?" And she said, "These are my letters from the war." Until that moment in 1991, I knew that my mother was a survivor, but I didn't know where she had been, what camps she had been in, what happened to her family. She was the youngest of 11.
She had never spoken about that.
She had never spoken about it.
So her history with you really began in New York City with your father in 1946, and that whole 45 years didn't exist.
Did not exist. Did not exist. And as children, I was the middle child. I had an older brother and have a younger brother. And as children, whenever we would ask, her eyes would fill with tears, and we were clearly causing her pain, and so we simply stopped asking, and for years and years we just never discussed it. But I always thought about it. I always wondered. It was a black hole. I always wondered what had happened to her during those years. Even with her sisters, she had 2 sisters who survived, and one died when I was quite young, but the other one I knew very well. she never discussed it in front of me
Wow.
with her sisters as well. So until that moment, I could not have named her siblings. I could not have told you when or where her parents died. I could have told you absolutely nothing. And yet, at that moment, I was suddenly looking at what turned out to be 350 letters, photographs, documents that she had received in the camps, held on to,
Unbelievable.
taken with her, and then when she arrived in New York as a war bride in 1946, she put the box in a closet, and for the next nearly 50 years said nothing.
And then you've donated the vast majority of these letters to the collection at the New York Public Library, but you retained some of them, and it gives, I mean, having looked at it before, it gives
Yes.
me goosebumps just looking at this material.
Yes. And for any librarian or archivist who happens to be watching your show, let's move the water way over to the side, because
Yes.
they probably wouldn't even want it on the
Yes,
table.
and particularly with me with my hand motions.
Yes. So it's interesting, in a digital world, and I live very much in a digital world with email and teleconferencing, video conferencing, and all of that. With all of that virtual stuff going on, there is nothing like the fact that I can reach out right now.
Oh man, it's history. It's
and touch history.
Wow. And what was your mother's reaction to the book?
My mother's reaction to the whole thing initially was, I think she was pleased that I was interested, and that after all these years, she was able to answer my questions. But these were very, very painful memories to her. So there was a lot of pain mixed with the sense of, I'm glad my daughter is interested. She never really thought anybody else would be interested, however. And I think it wasn't the day that we donated the letters to the library, and we met with Paula Clare and David Ferriero at the New York Public Library and gave them the actual letters. And we walked down the beautiful marble staircase of the New York Public Library. I think that was the first day that my mother realized this wasn't Annie's folly,
Right.
that there really were people who saw this as an important part of history, not just our family history. So I think for her it was a gradual realization that the story is important. And I've been everywhere. I have yet to see a collection of this breadth in any library.
This book will be published this week. In fact, it's being released. There is a website. It's at the Dort Jewish Division at the New York Public Library, and www.letterstosalah.org. It's just, it truly is mind-blowing. It's a very powerful book, and
Yes.
You're lucky, and your mom is lucky.
It's Salah's gift to you too.
Thank you. And this interview was a gift to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you.